Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa and I own a branch and cord. I am a business based out of the Pacific Northwest and I have a macrame and fiber arts business. Today we're going to be making DIY rainbows using upcycled fabric scraps from Marley's Monsters. So what that means in a nutshell is there are scraps coming off of the end of some of the products that they make, and rather than the scraps going into the trash or any recycling facilities, they came to me and we get to use them to wrap rainbows. Super cool, right? And this rainbow is going to make you about a 7x7 rainbow. So let's get started. Okay, so you have one of three kits. Today I'm going to be making the dusk kit. This is a purple and pink looking kit. You may have the sunrise, or there's also the azul. You will want to plug in your glue gun right away. Your kit's going to come with 4 rope rows, printed instructions, beads, yarn needle, and of course your Marley's Monsters cotton fabric scraps. What you're also going to need are your sharpest scissors, a glue gun, glue stick, and a sort of comb. Now all 4 of your colors are cut the same length, so you can choose any order you want to go. For the sake of this video, I am going to match the colors on the kit. So you are going to grab a color and you're going to grab your glue gun. All right. Now we're going to leave this area covered with the tape for now. When we take this off, this is going to be your fringe, also your clouds. So just add a small line of hot glue and take your color and lightly tap over it to secure. The glue may still be hot, so just don't burn yourself. But once it's on there, you're going to wrap it fully so that you're hiding where you started. And then you're going to take the rope and just wrap it around. So I say that I take the rope and wrap it around instead of the fabric and wrap it around because I can actually control the way the fabric goes on if I move the rope. You could also take it and move it this way and use your hand that way, but again, this is the way that I found best to wrap rainbows. And I'm also kind of doing it at an angle. So you're going to see like the lines going a bit diagonal. That just helps to lay it flat. And you're going to go all the way around. And you want to make sure that as you're covering, you are only going about halfway over so that when we arch your rainbow, none of the white rope underneath shows. So if you just arch your rainbow and you're like, oh shoot, I have a white spot, it's no big deal to unwrap this fabric and restart. That's what's nice about wrapping with cotton scraps is you can go back if you'd like to change something. Okay, now once you get to your end, you're going to go all the way around until you hit back to the middle where the arch is, and you're going to want to cut your cotton fiber down here so that it lays right in the center. And when I say the center, I mean the inner part where the rows are going to line up so we can hide the end here. Watch and you'll see what I mean. So I'm cutting about 1 centimeter, give or take. I'm going to take my hot glue. I'm actually going to apply it directly on the side. It doesn't even need that much. It's just enough to secure things. And then I'm going to carefully press it on. Again, that hot glue is going to be hot, so don't burn your fingers and just lightly tap until it dries. Okay, now here's where the real magic of making nice rainbows happen. So as we are finishing our ends, we're going to take each arch and line them up as we go so that we have a straight bottom. And you'll see that in the next, at the end of our next row. But you want to keep in mind to keep putting your rainbow together to line things up so that when we glue, you have a straight end. So grab your next color, the next longest row, and do that same wrapping step. Okay, so again here, actually before I do that, we're going to do that lining up that I talked about. Okay, so you'll notice on the left side here, those line up great. I hold my arch and I want to see, let's get those out of the way. If I were to glue it here, that would be too long. So I'm actually going to undo and see where it best lines up. Again, I'm a little high there, or I'm sorry, a little low. So I'm going to take it and just shimmy it up a bit. And that looks pretty good. So yes, this is a little bit longer, no problem. Don't worry about that. Right now, we just want our fabric ends to match and be straight. So I'm going to cut about 1 centimeter, glue, and attach. Okay, once again, take your rainbow. See, I'm a little short here, so I need to add some more. Right, it's lining up nicely. Perfect. Okay, let's see how this last one goes. It's looking pretty good. We're gonna do one more. And this time I want it to secure on top for sure so that I hide it once I glue. Okay, so next step, before we do the actual gluing of the rows together, we're gonna go ahead and take off the tape now. It'll be a little bit easier than doing it later. So this is super important. You wanna grab the whole piece to remove. If you grab it little by little and it tears apart, it's gonna be pretty challenging to take it off. But if you just grab in one swoop, you'll see it's pretty easy. Now go ahead and remove all the others. All right, now the great thing about this kit, the masking tape and the label are the only things you're gonna need to throw in the trash. Everything else is compostable, biodegradable, paper products, 100% cotton here, natural wooden beads. You can reuse that yarn needle and recycle the paper. All right, now that we have your rainbow rose ready to go, we are going to start gluing. So again, we're gonna be watching our ends as we glue to make sure things line up as nicely as they can for a straight line. We can do a little bit of fixing once the glue goes down, but it's much more challenging. So ideally, we're gonna nail it on the first go. And if you're at this point and you've glued, okay, we're gonna start with our inner row and a couple things to note. See how this is lifted right here? That's okay because I'm gonna turn my row a little bit so that is in the center and I'm gonna add the hot glue right on top of it so that as I glue, I'm covering it and then it will be attached to the next row. So it's not really gonna show. So we're not gonna worry about that. Alternatively, if there's a little part hanging, you could also just cut it off. But as we start gluing, I wanna make sure that everyone knows arches are gonna be different on everybody's. If you're at this point and you've glued your ends and you notice one is incredibly longer than the other, and I'm not talking about like a little bit like that, I'm talking a significant amount, you can take it and you can actually pull it towards you to help shorten it. And also to elongate it too. You can pull on the side that you glued last and pull it down that way. And that'll give you just a little bit of room. Okay, so now we are going to be gluing from inside out. And I like a pretty tight arch on my rainbows, so I'm going to be kind of pushing with my hands and training the rows where I want them to go. So now the trick with hot glue is small sections quickly. Hot glue dries fast, so we don't want to put too much before we know exactly how things are laying and how it's going before we apply, but we want to be really thoughtful with it. And also know how your rainbow arches may be different than mine. It just all depends on how tight or how loose we're all gluing and holding things. There's no one exact way to do it. So all rainbows end up happy and wonderful at the end. But it's not going to be uncommon that someone's rainbow is going to open up like that. It just depends on how you glue it and the tension. So no big deal. But all right, we're going to start with our inner row. I'm going to glue right on the end here, and I'm only going to glue 3 or so inches. We're going to worry about that later. Okay, and then I'm going to put it right up against that inner row. So the key thing here is I'm going to arch my rainbow, and I'm going to press down every single time I glue. And what we're doing is we're telling the rows, this is how you need to dry, or telling the glue, this is how you need to dry in this shape, so that every time it goes down, it stays like that. And a little bit of glue come off here so I can pick at it as it dries. That's the fun thing about hot glue, is it's clear, and we'll get rid of that later. All right, so we're just gonna carry on. So as I continue to glue, I like to open up my rows like this so I can get as close as I can to where I last left off and just continue gluing. And you want to do as thin of lines as possible. And again, I'm going to hold down every single time. And ta-da, we have a glued rainbow. So now if you notice that there are any gaps where you put glue, that could happen. It just sometimes it'll not dry up, but it disperses in different ways when we arch them. You can very carefully try to insert the tip of the glue gun and squeeze them right in the lines and then push down. So I would do that if you have any openings, but also it's not really a big deal if you do. But notice how I'm going to try to squeeze all the way and then push. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to add our hanging string to the top using the wooden beads string and needle. So you can just pull carefully on that and come off. All right, so you're going to thread your needle. With the string, I try to hold as close as I can to the end so that I can easily thread it and pull it through. That might take a few tries, but no big deal. And then you're going to want to find your center point of your rainbow as best you can. Don't pay attention to the fringe because notice this is longer on this side. So look at your arch from the bottom of your row here. You're going to poke a hole in the fabric and then get to the other side as well. And then you're going to lift up. And then you're going to pull through your beads so that both strings are in there. Thread the needle fully through. Connect the string tops and pull. Move that down, and you're going to tie a double knot or a single double knot at the single double knot. What is that? One of these singles, but it's a double so that those stay nice and secure. Okay, so what we're going to do now is our fringe. Because I want it to be pretty even, I'm going to take my scissors and cut off that longer part. Okay, now that we have it mostly even, clean up my area, and then I'm going to use my comb to brush things out. And this is also your reminder to unplug your hot glue gun if you haven't done that already. And then I'm going to brush, and you can also just leave your ends like this. I would call this a natural fringe, kind of wild, kind of fluffy fun. But if you want to get more of a straight line as shown in the picture, you're going to need to brush and then cut. But really whatever you want to do here is just fine. And so what you might notice I'm doing is I'm cutting it or brushing as close as I can to the ends here to separate them. Okay, and now we are going to cut. I like to try to leave about 1 inch or so at the bottom. And then really it's just me going back and forth, making as straight of lines as possible. And there you have it, friends, your very own upcycled fabric scrap rainbow. Don't mind the fizz I got on mine. But you can hang these on your wall, you can set it on a shelf as decor, really wherever you'd like. If you're interested in the other kits as well, I will link them below as to where you can find more. Thanks for your support, and let me know how it went for you in the comments below.